Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With episode 821 of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and it is Friday. So you know exactly what that means. We are here to break down everything that happened over the last week across NXT and AEW. NXT, of course, giving you week 2 of the Gold Rush special from the theater at Madison Square Garden. AEW, its first episode of television, coming off its penultimate pay-per-view of 2025 Full Gear. So we have an absolute ton to discuss on today's show, as we usually do. We were originally going to tape this on Thursday. Thanksgiving, frankly, got away from the Silver King. Now we have Black Friday starting. Silver King's a shopper. I'll tell you, I don't go crazy, but there's usually, 2 to 3 things I buy every Black Friday. I wait and look for actual sales, not a lot of the bullshit they throw at you, making you believe things are discounted. But yeah, I have a day ahead of me of spending a little bit of money, not a lot, but just a little. But I wanted to make sure we got this show up first. I should further clarify that this episode is not going to be as comprehensive as it normally would be. I did not get the opportunity to watch the AAA show from last weekend. I saw some clips of it, but, I'd like to be able to speak on it with a level of authority if we're going to cover it at all here on the podcast. Furthermore, I had no opportunity, no time whatsoever this week to watch the Tony Khan interview with Ariel Helwani. So let's put a pin in both of those and hope, at least, that we'll be able to cover them next week in this spot. Same bat time, same bat channel right here on Getting Over. As we get into today's show, I want to remind you that we already have 2 episodes in the book this week, and we have 1 more to come as well. There was a special 2 for Tuesday this week. The first episode, Silver King sitting down for 30 minutes with none other than NXT North American Champion Ethan Page. Of course, we gave you later Tuesday the WWE Survivor Series War Games 2025 Ultimate Preview, and we will be back Saturday night with a WWE Survivor Series War Games 2025 Instant Analysis. So a 4-episode week right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. And when it comes to that Ethan Page interview, not only can you listen to it in the feed right here, you can watch it on our YouTube at Getting Overcast. Every time we do an interview here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, we post it in full over there. We'll probably clip it up a little bit as well, just because it was such a newsworthy interview, and I had such a great time talking to Ethan earlier in the week. So please make sure you go over to YouTube, subscribe if you haven't, check out that interview at Getting Overcast, and really that's where you can find us across the board on social media. On Twitter and Blue Sky, we give you episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all that good stuff. You can send in questions and comments for the show, and you can vote in pre- and post-show polls before and after WWE Survivor Series War Games this weekend. So again, make sure that you follow us over there at Getting Overcast. And as we get into the show, I do need to remind you, specifically because it is Black Friday into Cyber Monday,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month or a discounted amount for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Over head. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover, sign up using the discounted rate, and you will get the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. So again, support the show, get a discount on supporting the show. We'd still appreciate it though. And again, head over to buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. You get extra content, and you help the continuation of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. As I mentioned, we don't have that stacked of a show for you. We're really just going to cover 2 hours of NXT Gold Rush Week 2, which was a taped episode, and then 2 hours of AEW Dynamite. So let's get to it. There are timestamps in the episode description. As always, you can jump around if you feel it is necessary, but I do hope you listen to the entire show. So for NXT Gold Rush, John Cena announced the Iron Survivor Challenge participants for NXT Deadline in a pair of pre-taped videos from Madison Square Garden last week, which of course is what we expected. No one thought he would be there in person. The men's side was set as Javon Evans, Leon Slater from TNA, Joe Hendry, Dion Lennox of Dark State, and then the winner of a Miles Bourne Trick Williams match, the main event of that show. I'm definitely into the field. Look, you have to remember the NXT men's roster is thin. It's about the best they could have done, but it was also blatantly obvious from the second this segment ended that the men's winner is going to be either Evans or Hendry, considering their respective momentum in the way 2024 Iron Survivor ended, specifically for Javon. Slater being involved is odd because he's literally from another company, but it certainly ups the talent level and the athleticism quotient. Badly needed considering the other three in the match. The surprising part here, frankly, was Lennox over Saquon Sugars. I believed Lennox at the time when this was happening was technically one half of the tag team champions with Osiris Griffin, so why not let Sugars get the run in this match? He's got a higher ceiling. He's got nothing to do comparatively because he's not half of a champion. I found that to be a strange decision. Now, this was addressed later backstage as Lennox spoke about focusing on the singles division with the tag team titles, he said, staying in the family. But he didn't hand off his strap to either of the other guys. And when they appeared later in the show, he was still wearing it. Again, that's weird. If you're going to make the effort to cite the situation and provide a level of continuity to say, all right, I'm going to focus on this, I'm not going to do this, then why would you not provide the solution immediately? Why would you not hand off the title to Sugars or Cutler James? He's such a non-factor on television. The guy's name actually escaped me for the first time. Now, look, we'll obviously do predictions as deadline gets closer, but remember, the winner gets a title match at New Year's Evil, not Stand and Deliver. That's January 6th, 1 month after deadline. If you're WWE, do you want to put the title on Javon Evans for the first time during a special TV episode or as the main event of a PLE? For me, it would be the latter. And if you're not going to strap him up the next time he gets an NXT championship match, then he shouldn't be a number one contender. That throws some doubt into him being the favorite here. But again, maybe we'll get clarity coming into deadline so we can make a better prediction. So we had Bourne against Williams. This match main evented the Gold Rush show that featured 4 title matches. Just saying. Bourne countered a trick shot attempt with a power slam before the guys took each other out with simultaneous neck breakers. Really nice spot. Trick hit Trouble in Paradise ringside only for Miles to avoid him knee first into the steel steps. He landed Bourne again for a second time ringside, rolling Williams into the ring for a third Bourne again and the upset. A squeaky clean 1, 2, 3. Trick went out on his back as we expected. He's got to be main roster bound at this point. The crowd was not as enthusiastic for Miles' win as I anticipated. It was just an extremely muted reaction. And the match just didn't play as well as it should for what looked to be Williams' swan song. Left a lot to be desired. Dark State threatened after the bell, only for the Iron Survivor faces to save, likely setting up an 8-man for next week. This was just another glimpse into how far behind the men are from the women in NXT. Seeing these 8 people face off to end a show, and you're like, man, this is like most of the best they have. Bourne, by the way, badly needs a new finisher. It's just the zigzag deal does not work for him. The women's side was set as Sol Ruka, Lola Vice, Kalani Jordan, Jordan Grace, and Kendall Gray. Hey, where's Jada Parker? Like, she's got to be injured or something because her complete absence from TV recently is otherwise massively concerning. Kendall over Ren Sinclair is fine. Gray's somehow been featured in more matches recently than the woman who's been firmly on the brand all year. Plus, Ren was in the match last year. I thought that was the start of her getting pushed, and they just haven't done anything with her since then. I mean, she's on TV weekly, but she's not wrestling. She's not competing. She's extremely talented as a character, as a wrestler, and NXT doesn't use her in this women's division. It doesn't make any sense to me. I have no issue with Sol being involved. Obviously, surprised not to see Zarya or Fallon Henley, though. Lola is fresh for this match, but I'm not sure she needed another opportunity. Lonnie, I do not understand at all. She was literally TNA Knockouts champion on the show. Why would you put her in a number one contendership? She is so overfeatured, it's ridiculous. Why does Lonnie have to be involved in everything? Just give us a little bit of a break here and there. Freshen up this match a little bit. There's so many other women they could have chosen here. If we're putting champions in the match, by the way, why not Blake Monroe? I'm floored, or I was at least initially, that neither Tatum Paxley nor Izzy Dame are part of this. I figured both would be in it. Maybe they're going to fight in a singles match at NXT Deadline because they have a separate feud. That would play. It leads me to Grace being my early favorite. You could put her over Jane at New Year's Evil. It would make perfect sense. Then you have Paxley get built up to win the title at Stand and Deliver, calling Grace up to the main roster after that. Sol is probably the favorite, though, even though Grace would be my early prediction is probably the term that I should have used. But again, we will circle back to this coming out of Deadline here. I assume the NXT title is going to main event the show. On Deadline, I'm talking about Ricky Saints and Obafemi. If that's the case, this women's Iron Survivor should open the show. It's going to be way better than the men. I'd be shocked if the men's match is better. All in all, not the ideal sets of 5 competitors for either the men's or women's matches. Last year, WWE straight up nailed it. This year is leaving a bit to be desired. It's quite possible both completely over-deliver to expectation. The match concept is nails, but there's a clear drop in contender quality when last year in these matches you had Obafemi, Ethan Page, Nathan Frazier, Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, among others that are kind of making their repeats, Javon Evans and such. Ricky Saints did a taped sit-down interview saying it feels great to be in the NXT spotlight with pressure on him given Obafemi's return. He said he rewatched their first match and cannot say for sure how he's going to beat Femi a second time, wondering if he's just a detour in Oba's title reign or the actual new standard bearer for the division. Ricky said his entire journey will be all for naught if he can't retain the title, but he loves the pressure and it motivates him. Saints said he needs to prove himself to all the voices, those in his head and those that exist outside. This was great. Ricky showed a lot of personality, really allowed you to buy into him as a babyface. Being able to express doubt while simultaneously remaining confident, it's really tough to do. With only a go-home left next week, it was important to get Saints' perspective on this match, but there really needs to be a big segment between them for the go-home. Izzy Dame cut a tape promo on Tatum Paxley, reminding that she had been in her ear, warning her about this stuff for weeks. Tatum just kept listening to the wrong voices, leading to her downfall. Dame assumed Paxley would cry about her misfortune like usual, so she promised to explain in greater detail next week. I didn't have an issue with saving the true follow-up for a live show, especially back in the Performance Center in front of an audience. It's going to throw major heat on Izzy. Had they done something here, it just, I don't know, it would have been too close to the turn. And also on a taped show, you don't really want to see that. You want it live. You want that awesome, loud reaction. You don't necessarily want the same people that saw the turn, reacting to it again later, 45 minutes later, let's say, or whenever they would have taped it. TNA Knockouts Championship, Kalani Jordan defending against Jordan Grace and Li Ying Li. Lonnie was still half a second off with her powdered hand claps in concert with her entrance theme. She was dominant at the bell, hitting a nice springboard moonsault ringside. Grace got the soccer-style chance midway through before Lonnie took her off the ropes with the Spanish fly. Lee had a great counter of a kick, raising her leg and trapping Lonnie's appendage in a single-leg crab. Grace pulled Lee out of the submission for a powerbomb, only for Lonnie to break the fall and get rolled into a powerbomb herself. Real loud women's wrestling chant here. That was pretty cool. Lonnie ate shit trying a 450 and ate a roundhouse kick from Lee, plus a back fist and rack bomb from Grace for a fall broken by Lee, hitting a falling Street Fighter style kick to Grace's back, which is called Thunderstruck. Great name. Leaving Lonnie prone for the surprise 1-2-3 with Li Ying Li becoming the new TNA Knockouts champion. I did not expect a TNA wrestler to win a TNA title on a WWE show, especially a taped show. I get the bigger stage and all, but it was still surprising. Probably super sweet for the former Xia Li, considering she got fired by WWE a year ago, only to be strapped up with the promotion's top title on WWE air in the theater at Madison Square Garden. Love that for her. She was much better in this match than she had been in NXT. She's clearly been developing with a fresh change of scenery. This match completely over-delivered to expectation too. Deserving of the spotlight on the show, even if everything around it, from an important standpoint, severely lacked. 3.75 stars B+. This was the match of the night for NXT Gold Rush Night 2. You know what I don't understand though? This contention that WWE is actively ruining Jordan Grace because she hasn't won a title yet. I do agree it's ridiculous that she's been in so many title matches and not won them. It's what I've been talking about with Kyle O'Reilly in AEW for like a year and a half, 2 years. But there's a huge gulf between those two. Kyle O'Reilly would lose a bunch of matches and then just get a title match. Jordan Grace is often winning number one contenderships or winning other matches and then getting deserved opportunities, but failing. It's not like she's just been eating L after L after L and still contending for championships. She's been in a lot of multi-person matches too, and she's also been cheated out of straps on multiple occasions. The fact that she's regularly involved in the main event and upper mid-card is a positive, not a negative. And let's not forget, some people just don't win titles in NXT. Like, Bianca Belair. She never won one. And she's one of the biggest stars that WWE has, obviously, in the women's division. So I'm not overly concerned about Grace, but she probably does need to freak out or something. Like, I've had 6 title opportunities in this company, and I've either lost or been screwed every single time, and I'm not going to take this anymore. And like, she should be winning a title in NXT. She should probably beat Blake Monroe for the North American Championship, but Blake needs to defend that a few times. You can't just flip it right away. So we'll see what they do there. Ethan Page backstage approached Sol Ruca, saying she's a world champion caliber talent who shouldn't be playing second fiddle to anyone, and she would still be North American champion if it wasn't for Zarya. Miles Bourne came through, basically calling Page on his shit, saying he was locked in for the biggest match of his career coming up. Of course, we already talked about that. Ethan retorted that Miles clearly isn't focused if he's worried about people that have nothing to do with him. Let's not forget that Bourne literally challenged for the NXT championship, and he's calling this the biggest match of his career. Come on, man. Strong character development segment overall, especially for Sol. It does seem like that heel turn is going to happen for her. Speed Championship, vacant title. Zarya fought Fallon Henley. Zarya locked in a Texas Cloverleaf midway through the 5-minute match, then hit a flying clothesline off the ropes. I realized at this point, since it was a vacant title, did the time limit even matter? Were they going to end the match without a champion if for some reason the time expired? This is halfway through the match. I had this thought, I promise you. Anyway, Fatal Influence briefly distracted ringside, allowing Fallon to hit her around the post 619. Zarya then rolled through a crossbody, lifting Henley for an F5, but Henley countered with the DDT. And then, to my utter shock, like I said, I swear I had that thought and wrote that note before it actually happened. The time actually expired. So Ava comes out and makes it sudden death to a finish. In other words, a normal match. And then NXT went to commercial break despite the term sudden death and the entire match concept being fast wrestling. I was straight up dumbfounded. Zarya escaped Rings of Saturn, hit a spear. Laney Reed then pulled Fallon away from a ringside spear, with Zarya running into the steel steps. Henley came back with a Shining Wizard and a Famouser to win the least valuable title in the entire company. So Fallon finally wins something as a single, and it's the Women's Speed Championship. Folks, WWE needs to jettison speed from television immediately. I hate using this phrase because it's overdone, but this shit completely jumped the shark on Tuesday night. The match between Henley and Zarya was more than solid. If it was for the Women's North American Championship, it would have played just fine. It made zero sense doing a speed concept match this way. It's a 5-minute time limit. That's the entire concept the title is based around. And it goes past it, but because the title is vacant, okay, wrestle indefinitely until there's a winner, like a normal match. It's like when they took the Heritage Cup and then just gave a regular match. And then now the Heritage Cup is gone. So maybe this is a harbinger. Maybe like the speed title is actually going to go away because they're going to say, well, you just won it in a regular match. So what's the purpose of it still existing? Look, I'm happy that Fallon, I guess, has a singles title to her name. But again, it's dog shit. It shouldn't even be recognized in this company. Please end speed on NXT. If anyone from WWE Creative does listen to the show, and we joke about that sometimes, save my sanity. Get this off the program. It was already terrible, and now you made it even worse.
Come on, Oos. It's a joke, right? It's a joke, Oos. You ribbing me?
The Evolve Women's Championship on the line. Kendall Gray defending against Laney Reed. JC Jane put the pressure on Laney backstage before Ava entered, barring Fatal Influence from ringside, considering Jane and Henley both won their titles via interference. Okay, a real decision from Ava. Nice. Step in the right direction. I found myself trying to decide whether I like the concept of someone named Gray wearing only gray in every match. I think it's a bit too on the nose and a bit too bland considering Kendall's talent level. Okay, wear like mostly gray, but throw some color in there too. Laney flipped her off the apron headfirst into the steel steps and much later hit half of a blue thunderbomb. Reed exposed her knee only for Gray to counter her for a running power slam false finish. Influence ran down, jumped on the ring apron despite being barred from ringside. The referee did nothing about it and no security ran out. Maybe he was distracted by Fallon Henley.
It look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
Ren Sinclair tried to help as Kendall appeared to tap out Laney with the referee missing it. She avoided JC running into Ren, who was caught falling off the apron by a returning Charlie Dempsey. Kendall super kicked JC off the ropes as the referee finally ejected all of them from ringside. which could have happened without them being banned in the first place. Gray stopped Reed on the ropes, hitting a full release avalanche German suplex and Shades of Gray to retain the title. Holy convoluted booking, Batman. A lot happened at the end of this match, and it shouldn't have been needed for Kendall Gray to beat Lainey Reed. Kendall retaining was most important because she's a supreme talent. Lainey acquitted herself nicely. Don't get it twisted. The most she's impressed me since her debut. No sound drop this week. This felt like a perfect opportunity to have Carmen Petrovic join Ren QCC. Charlie being there was random, but it still worked. Entertaining. Another match, I would say, that exceeded expectations on the show. Is it gradable? Not really. It's a B match, as was the Evolve Men's Championship, which was Jackson Drake defending against Sean Legacy. This opened the show. High octane from the jump. Legacy hit a lifted Michinoku driver, I guess you'd call it, but Drake barely got knees up on a springboard 450, hit a standing moonsault knee drop like Speedball. Legacy answered with a Spanish-style underhand crossbody from the top rope. I know I name a lot of moves on this show. Some of these were beyond what I know off the top of my head. Drake escaped shambles for a gutbuster, then hit a draping springboard knee drop and the unaliver for the 1-2-3. Surprised at the result here. I figured with Legacy's arrow pointing up massively that this being put on NXT would lead to them doing a title change, maybe make an impact on a special show. If Legacy is going to get the call to work permanently on NXT, then I could see him not winning the strap here, sure. But that obviously remains to be seen if he's getting that call. It was nice to see a quality match from two up-and-coming prospects. Odd to start the episode with a pair of complete unknowns when you're trying to retain viewership. Thought that was odd. So whereas that women's match was probably like 3.25 on the B, this is probably 3.5, maybe slightly higher, but no, this was quality, but it was just odd to start the show with it. Shiloh Hill got a second promo package in the same format as the first. He talked about his deceased father loving WWE and how he's worked a variety of jobs throughout his life. Then he randomly pulled out a retainer that contained a false tooth that he lost on LFG, saying it makes him look like his friends in the woods. Tough. Then he paused, realized he didn't have bolt cutters on his person, and decided that he needed to go. Less creepy than the first one, still extremely odd. The dude has personality plus. That's a huge positive. And he's solid in the ring. So as a prospect, he's got significant potential. I'm just not entirely sure what's happening with like this character in this storyline, but it's NXT. We've seen some gimmicks start much worse than this and actually wind up being pretty okay. So let's just give it time. So that wraps up NXT, obviously a taped Gold Rush special. It was only going to be so newsworthy, but they figured out a way to do a title change, which wasn't spoiled for me because I don't read the spoilers. And the announcement of the Iron Survivor participants gave you something to chew on, a little bit of meat to chew on during the show. So a solid episode, certainly not one of the worst of the year, definitely nowhere near one of the best of the year. The positive for me, though, when I watch NXT these days is, unlike many of you, I don't have to sit through commercial breaks. And that's because whether it's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, or premium live events on Netflix, even Saturday night's main event on YouTube, I am all in with NordVPN. It's easy to set up and a drastically better viewing experience with high quality streams and commercial free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country like Canada, open Netflix and watch the show. That's it. It's going to be crucial, by the way, for Survivor Series War Games this weekend, especially for those of you with Comcast or YouTube TV. NordVPN also allows you to get around online censorship or surveillance, protect your private data when web browsing, and avoid online threats. Plus, one NordVPN account can be used on 10 devices. So get the best discount from NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the already discounted 2-year plan. And there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So improve your WWE viewing, save some money, browse safer online, and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. It is great to have NordVPN as the official singular sponsor of your boys right here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Let's move over to AEW. Every bout on Dynamite was a tournament match of some kind, so it gets 100% relevancy credit, even though that's obviously a total cheat code, and none of the matches were actually built through storyline. So it's either 0% or 100%, but based on our criteria, we give it 100 because, that's an allowance that we make. Dynamite overall, for me, lacked energy outside of 2 matches, and really nothing moved forward. It felt like a mail-in to some degree, and that is something that AEW has really struggled with coming out of pay-per-views. For WWE, they've had issues with go-home shows. They're usually strong out of premium live events. AEW, it's the opposite. The Continental Classic field was announced Monday night during Raw, by the way, with 6 men each in the gold and blue leagues, and it got started immediately Wednesday, despite one tournament ongoing and the national championship being introduced at Full Gear. The Gold League has Darby Allin, Kevin Knight, Kyle Fletcher, Pac, Kazuchika Okada, and Mike Bailey. So notably, teammates in Knight and Bailey and stablemates in Fletcher and Okada. The Blue League, Claudio Castagnoli, Konosuke Takeshita, Mascara Dorada, Jon Moxley, Roderick Strong, and Orange Cassidy. So same thing here. Even though Strong technically isn't part of the conglomeration, I mean, that's all he does these days. So Strong and Cassidy, and then Claudio and Mox, both being part of the Death Riders. Strong field overall, a couple surprises in terms of absences, like Kyle O'Reilly. It does seem to be setting up for an Okada-Takeshita final, which is interesting because I figured that match was going to main event Wrestle Kingdom for New Japan. But we'll have to see how it all goes. I did not see any clarity about the Unified Championship and its involvement here. It would logically make sense. I mean, none of this makes sense if we're being completely candid, but logically, the way this operates is that Okada would split the Continental. That's on the line in this tournament. If he retained it, then he would remain Unified Champion. And if he doesn't retain it, if someone else wins it, he would just be the International Champion, although there's also now a National Champion. Again, the whole thing's convoluted. We'll have to wait and see what they do with it. So Continental Classic, Kyle Fletcher beat Okada to open Dynamite and the tournament. Okada hit a draping DDT off the apron ringside before a shotgun dropkick, regular dropkick, and tombstone pile driver. Fletcher basically no-sold that, immediately countering Rainmaker into a Michinoku driver. Okada avoided a backslide, hitting a Rainmaker but not covering. Fletcher ducked a second attempt and put Okada into the middle turnbuckle, hitting a last ride-style powerbomb for a false finish. Even though Okada raked Fletcher's eyes during a set of counters, Fletcher once more countered Rainmaker into a rolling cover for the upset. Interesting decision to beat your Unified Champion to open the proceedings, but I suppose the idea is to tell us as viewers that anything could happen. It also made Fletcher 2-0 over Okada in AEW. Another interesting part is Fletcher literally just lost the title to Mark Briscoe, and now he's beating one of your other champions, who's also his stablemate. Kazu shook his hand after the bell. That was a bit antithetical to how he's acted otherwise in this character. The match was great. The booking just has to make sense going forward. This was borderline 4.25 stars, A-A. It was really close. I will say 4.25 stars A for this one. This was really good. Continental Classic, Jon Moxley beat Mascara Dorada. Mox cut a bloody promo after Full Gear with the rest of Death Riders kind of giving him unimpressed looks. Dorada hit a code red followed by a tope con hero, but Mox caught him with a cutter back inside. Mox escaped an armbar and inside cradle, but ate a 450 for a 2.9. That really should have been 3. Mox prevented a shooting star press with double knees, immediately putting Dorada into a great-looking inverted d'arch choke for the knockout win. Damn good bout. Mox did a great job showing weakness, perhaps some false confidence, despite coming out on top. Dorada flashed as usual, a little slower than I expected in some parts here. 3.75 stars B+, but borderline A-. This is really close. Toni Storm entered after the match because Marina Shafir was in the ring. She announced a Holiday Hardcore death match as the nonsensical stipulation for the tournament semifinal that she's in. Shafir freaked out, of course. I mean, we knew the stipulation would be something like this because it's AEW. It's truly ridiculous to do this in the middle of a title tournament. It just does not make any sense. Toni also cut some of her promo on Mox, which is just pretty cool. It was like the Becky Lynch and CM Punk type of deal. It was a little interesting, but obviously didn't have the same vitriol or interest because their feud isn't real. Continental Classic, Kevin Knight beat Darby Allin. Darby took a header into the middle turnbuckle on a great Irish whip. Knight later did a tope lariat into an elevated ramp, but missed UFO coming back, so Allin hit a code red. Knight then landed a perfect coast-to-coast with Darby in the Tree of Woe. Best spot on the entire show. Crazy athleticism here. Then he added the UFO for that massive upset. So what we've learned about Darby now is he can only win hardcore matches unless he fights Daniel Garcia. And the guy who took down Big Bad Mox, with the help of Sting, by the way, didn't win on his own, has now lost consecutive singles matches after being a non-factor in the Blood and Guts finish. If WWE booked someone this way, people would be screaming and crying about their favorite being buried. For all the ways that LA Knight has been booked, what they're doing with Darby right now, and it might be a concerted effort for a certain storyline they're telling, but it's worse in terms of like making someone look like a loser. I'm just saying from a objective standpoint on the outside. There might be a reason for it, and if there is a reason that it works, then great. But on the outside, it's like, wow, this guy really sucks. He can only do one thing. He's a one-trick pony, basically. What's unique about this tournament, though, is that Darby can rack up a bunch of wins and basically overcome all of this over the next few weeks. So, we'll see if that happens. As far as Knight goes, huge win for him. The dude is mega talented. If he can figure out the personality and character aspect, he could really make it. Also, a Continental Classic match, Claudio Castagnoli beat Orange Cassidy. Orange did a tope suicida tornado DDT and stun dog millionaire, only to get caught with an anti-air European uppercut. Orange eventually won a counter battle with a falling DDT, only to land Orange Punch during a pop-up, followed by Beach Break for a false finish. After a neutralizer escape, Orange got caught with another European uppercut. This was the worst of the 4 matches, but that's also the lowest level of the AEW audience, so I guess it made sense to run it this way. Just didn't feel much of anything coming out of this one. Death Rider celebrated with Claudio after the bell as AEW announced that he will be fighting Mox next week. And then Dynamite ended with what was supposed to be an interview, but instead the heels kind of went after Orange, and then a bunch of random C2 competitors ran out from the back for a brawl that frankly didn't make a shred of sense. If you were building to a multi-person match, okay. If you're trying to show individual angst and animosity for the tournament, it doesn't really make a lot of sense because everyone should be out for themselves here. So why are you getting someone else's back when you're the one trying to win the Continental Classic? This was a super weird way to end the show, especially when they could have built Mox and Claudio with the interview segment and created some intrigue for that match next week. This was a massively wasted opportunity. When Renee came out there, I was like, oh, this is really smart that they're going to kind of build Mox and Claudio and tease a turn or, something happening between them or some animosity in the group. And then just random baby faces ran out and they fought and they did a chaotic ending. And it was just really dumb, honestly. It was a terrible ending to Dynamite. The rest of the show, I told you, pretty entertaining. It was high match quality for the reasons we talked about. The ending of the show sucked. Let's just be candid about that. Samoa Joe hit the ring with the Ops carrying both of his titles. I had actually forgotten that he's now a double champion. When I saw this, I thought the right move would be for him to hand the Trios title to Hook, given he was supposed to be champion until he got hurt. Powerhouse Hobbs took his place, and Hook obviously helped Joe win the AEW championship. Just as Joe was about to speak, Swerve Strickland emerged from an SUV with a heavy chain around his neck carrying a staple gun, because that's a weapon one brings to a street fight. Not a knife or a gun or a steel pipe, a staple gun. But you have to use close range. Makes a lot of sense. Hangman Page began walking alongside him with a matching chain, despite him already being in the arena. So I guess they went shopping at the same Home Depot earlier in the day. The random Ops Dojo dude showed up just as Joe put over his strategery and ran a Hook video package. Then Hook walked out and was just there. He called the fans rednecks and said he's the greatest second-generation wrestler in history. It had a tad more passion than usual, but shit, dude's not even the best second-generation wrestler in his own company. The faces then came out with Hangman taking a shot at a bar, breaking a bottle over a dude's head, whose sell job individually was probably the best part of Dynamite. Kudos to that guy. They ran into the ring and beat up the dojo as the Ops walked away. Swerve stapled some dudes, as one does. They hit dual power bombs. And then they used their chains to hang 2 guys over the top rope with chains around their necks. Despite the fact that these guys could have put their feet on the floor. They could have used the ramp to help themselves. They could have just gotten out of the chains, frankly. It was okay. At least AEW actually followed up on its main event storyline on the Dynamite after, when so often those people don't even make television. I'd have been more interested in a Swerve Hangman segment, something between them, coming to terms, but perhaps it's going to come in the future. The Ops, they didn't feel particularly fresh or anything. The Hook element is whatever. The dojo dudes, as I said on the instant analysis, where did this part of their group come from? I either completely missed it or it was introduced randomly without any explanation. And we also have another heel faction with a bunch of people. So it's now, the 3rd in the men's division alone? And it's like, okay, man, you got these already. Can you do something different? Eddie Kingston later cut a promo saying he wants to take out Katsuyori Shibata so he can get a title shot against Joe. That was the entire promo. So I guess he's going to get a title shot against Joe. Kingston, who can barely move since coming back from injury. Chris Statlander backstage put herself over for being the only person to beat Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné, while also being the only one to win the women's title and TBS title. She said she was looking forward to the future. It was similarly nice that the women's champion was actually on the post-pay-per-view show, but man, they didn't even try to create something for her here. Interesting promo From stat, she's just so rough around the edges when she speaks. Maybe now being champion, getting more reps, she'll improve. Kenny Omega backstage said it's too early to say whether he and the Young Bucks are reunited, putting blame on himself the last few years for not being a role model. He said he didn't blame them considering Don Callis as he once did in their position, but perhaps they can all come together over it. After the locker room door closed, it reopened and the Bucks walked out. The idea being it didn't seem like they were there in the first place. Kind of floored that this was the only follow-up. Thought they would go a little bit deeper on this episode, but I guess there's no reason to rush it. Mark Briscoe cut a bloody promo after Full Gear talking about the long road filled with failure after losing his brother. He said the TNT title win was not for his family alone, but also his AEW family, the conglomeration. Not a great promo in like a traditional sense, but it was real and honest, and the sentiment was spot on. You can't help but be happy for this guy, even if you're not a fan of him. The women's tag team tournament was ongoing. Babes of Wrath beat Sisters of Sin. Julia Hart completely missed a moonsault to the point she literally landed on her feet and had to improv like an elbow drop just to create some level of impact. I've never seen that before. Willow Nightingale ultimately won with a Dr. Bomb. She was so far ahead, Willow, of the other three women in this match from a talent perspective. It's like the others were going in slow motion. Julia was particularly rough. She has not improved one iota, despite being in AEW for 4 to 5 years. I do like the Babes as a babyface team, but with all the duos that were established and platformed over the last 6 months, it does kind of ring hollow for them to be in the finals of this tournament. This match was rough. You know, we don't grade every single match, but if we were, this would have been like C-, D+. It was really bad. AEW announced on Dynamite that Collision would air Thursday night at 8 p.m. head-to-head with football during Thanksgiving. I simply could not understand that decision for a show that is already cratering in the ratings. So despite that airing before we taped this episode, Silver King just didn't watch it. It'll be in next week's episode. We will cover not only the Go Home NXT with an ultimate preview for NXT Deadline. We will do 4 hours of AEW, Dynamite and Collision, of course. We'll have the Tony Khan interview with Ariel Helwani, hopefully, and Silver King, if time allows. We'll watch the AAA show as well that featured Dominic Mysterio, El Grande Americano, Ethan Page, Chelsea Green, and others. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that next week right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. As mentioned, what we're talking through is currently a 4-episode week. We had our one-on-one interview with Ethan Page available in the podcast feed, also available on YouTube at Getting Overcast. You really do not want to miss that interview. It's one of the favorites that I've done in 5.5 years here on Getting Over. On Tuesday, we had your WWE Survivor Series War Games Ultimate Preview. The name is so long, I almost skipped the War Games part. Survivor Series War Games Ultimate Preview, that was published on Tuesday. And of course, Saturday, we'll be back with your WWE Survivor Series War Games Instant Analysis. A 4-episode week here, a 3-episode week next week with NXT Deadline. We've been going through a lot of content here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, and we appreciate that you've given us your ear holes the entire time. On the way out, allow the Silver King to remind you that here at Getting Over,
It's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast. As mentioned on YouTube, you can watch full-length video interviews, listen to full-length audio episodes. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show, and you can vote in pre- and post-show polls surrounding premium live events like WWE Survivor Series War Games on Saturday. And lastly, before we finish this up, please remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
Hope you do as well. For $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. But I said $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. That's the normal rate. This is Black Friday. Cyber Monday is just a couple days away. We have a discounted rate for you to sign up and support us. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Make sure you check it out. We would greatly appreciate it. All right, folks, that wraps up this edition of Getting Over. Appreciate all your ear holes. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving if it applies to you. Great Black Friday, Cyber Monday, days the Silver King does happen to enjoy. And the holiday season is obviously a month away. The year is wrapping up. The 2025 Getting Over Awards, a.k.a. the Meaties, are coming your way. The 2025 Year in Review is coming your way. The special John Cena retirement episode is coming your way. All of it performance-enhancing audio from your boys at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. This is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.